All right, Marianne, thank you. Let's bring in criminal defense attorney David Bruno. David, great to see you as always. What do you think? Did the jurors really take away anything from that visit to the crime scene?
I think the big takeaway is going to be the distance from the kennels to the house, because it really helps the prosecution on the timeline, which I think is really got to be the focus of the jury to convict this individual. Let's not forget that at first he said he was sleeping, that he had nothing to do with the dog kennels, that he got into a car and went to see his mom. But little did he know that his son Paul has a video of him at 8:44, which is minutes before the murder. And now when he comes forward in this testimony, he says that he took a golf cart from the house to the dog kennel. It takes about 2 minutes, 3 minutes in a golf cart, and that distance is critical to the timeline, really putting him at the crime scene at the time of the murder. I think that's the biggest takeaway, as well as the emotion of being at a crime scene where two people were brutally killed.
You know, David, it's my understanding that you do believe Murdaugh should be convicted. My question is, if he were in such severe financial trouble, what would that have to do with him potentially killing his family? Because when you look at how the Murdaughs were with their families, they went through leaps and bounds to cover up and to protect their family. So it doesn't make a lot of sense to me as to why the prosecution would have brought in, you know, he may have been a liar and a scummy person, but that doesn't make him a murderer.
Great point, Ashley, and I'm in your camp too. I always had a problem with this financial crime evidence coming out. Number one, I never really saw a nexus as to why he would kill his wife and his son because of it. And also, I think legally, I think it's really going to be an appeal issue, because we don't want juries convicting individuals based on bad character evidence. The prosecutor here is arguing that it's motive evidence, that's the reason for the killing. And I think that's where, if there's a not guilty, that may be the jury saying to the prosecutor, we don't believe this motive evidence. But at the same time, it got this horrible bad character evidence out against Alex Murdaugh. The fact that he's a thief, a liar, that he took advantage of his law partners and very sympathetic victims. And I think that pushes the jurors over into a guilty, given the timeline that I just went through.
Okay, so if you were giving the closing arguments today as the defense attorney, what would you say?
Well, look, the crime scene wasn't preserved properly. There are a lot of errors made in the investigation. So you have to attack the credibility of the investigation, as well as the fact that it's a circumstantial case. There's no admission. There's no direct evidence that Alex Murdaugh was there. And there's some forensic evidence on the phones that could be argued as well, where Maggie's phone was being moved, and it could be argued that Alex Murdaugh's phone was not being moved. There's some things to attack, but I think if the jury focuses on timeline, and I'm in that jury room, my vote would be a guilty.
And I want to follow up just really quickly on that with the jury. How difficult, because this is a very complex case. I mean, a lot of the stuff they brought up spans years prior. How difficult is it going to be for this jury to come to an agreement on this?
Look, even in my office, we talk about this regularly. You guys know Bob Bianchi. We're on the same page. But there are people in my office that think it's a not guilty. So I'll tell you what, this is going to be an interesting day, because the defense has slept on a closing argument. They heard the prosecutor yesterday, and they have every opportunity to prepare for a very persuasive argument. Look, the prosecutor yesterday, it was long, got back into all that forensic or the financials, which dragged on for a while, and the PowerPoint was something that they probably could have got a high school kid to do. Right. This defense is going to come out on fire today, and they're going to make the arguments that I think they need to make, and the jury needs to be unanimous. So we're going to see what the jury decides here. It could be guilty, has to be unanimous. Not guilty has to be unanimous. And if there's one juror that doesn't agree with the rest of the jury, that's a mistrial. Hung, and it comes back without a decision.
I think you highlighted the key thing in this saga so far. You have lawyers who are very, very bright coming down on both sides of this, guilty versus not guilty. That's not normal in a situation like this. Typically, you have consensus. You don't have it here. I think this is going to be an absolutely shocking result either way. David Bruno, thanks for your time as always and your insights, sir. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Mr.